Ocean City, Maryland voters have shot down short-term rental restrictions twice this year. Smart investors are watching the Wildwoods instead. If you're comparing Wildwood, New Jersey and Ocean City, Maryland for your next investment property, you need to know what's actually happened in the last few months, because a lot of the advice out there is already outdated. Ocean City's town council passed a moratorium on new short-term rental licenses in December. Residents forced a referendum, and in February, the council repealed it entirely. So short-term rentals are open again in Ocean City, at least for now. Meanwhile, Wildwood's median home price is sitting around $670,000. And as investor money keeps flowing in from pricier Jersey Shore islands, these two beach towns are being evaluated, and they tell two very different stories. One stable and appreciating, and one still fighting over its own rental rules. So I'm breaking down current pricing, cap rates, taxes, and exactly where short-term rental regulations stand right now in both towns. So let's get into it. Okay, now one quick ask. If beach town investing content like this is useful to you, hit subscribe right now. I break down real numbers on coastal markets all the time, and you won't want to miss the next video I make on this, okay? So now let's dig into the real numbers. Let's start with what it actually costs to get into Ocean City, Maryland. The median home price is right around $440,000, and that number has barely moved in 2 years. Condos are averaging closer to $405,000, while single-family homes push up towards $695,000. It's a stable, almost flat market. Now, Wildwood, New Jersey looks a little different. As of June 2026, the median list price in Wildwood proper is around $669,000, and next door in Wildwood Crest, it's pushing $775,000. Earlier this year, Wildwood posted 54% year-over-year price appreciation, one of the biggest jumps in the entire state, as capital fleeing pricier Jersey Shore towns like Avalon and Stone Harbor landed in the Wildwoods, because it's still the most accessible entry point to the same coastline. Homes are also moving faster in the Wildwoods. Median time on market dropped to just 44 days, down 27% from last year. Rental demand backs this up. Wildwood rents are up almost 18% year over year, which tells you tenant and vacation renter demand is outpacing supply. On the short-term rental side, Wildwood's average daily rate is around $301, with larger 6+ bedroom properties commanding up to $878 a night during peak season. Wow. July and August alone can generate over $10,000 in monthly revenue per property when you get up to those big homes. Now, Ocean City's short-term rental average daily rate is lower. It's around $212, but higher occupancy, around 22% versus Wildwood's 16%, pushes average annual revenue to about $51,000 compared to Wildwood's average at around $42,000. Now, on paper, that looks close, but remember, Wildwood's entry price has room to run, and Ocean City's has been flat for 2 years. Season length matters too. Wildwood's boardwalk economy runs roughly Memorial Day through Labor Day at full intensity, with shoulder season events stretching into September and October, thanks to car shows, Irish Weekend, Fireman's Convention, etc. That keeps visitors coming after summer ends. Now, Ocean City has a similarly concentrated summer season, but its family resort branding and quieter beaches mean less late-night, high-turnover rental demand outside of peak months. If your business model depends on maximizing short-term rental nights per year, the extended shoulder season and event calendar in the Wildwoods can translate into a few extra weeks of bookable inventory and income. So let's talk return on investment specifically. Some market trackers put Ocean City's traditional long-term rental cap rate under 2%, with short-term Airbnb cash-on-cash returns hovering around 1% in some analysis. Tight margins once you factor in condo fees and a short summer season. Wildwood doesn't have as much published cap rate data yet, and that actually tells you something's emerging in this market that hasn't been fully priced by institutional money yet. When average daily rate is climbing, rents are climbing 18%, and purchase prices are still catching up to demand, that's usually the window where early buyers capture the best returns. Now, Here's the part that's changed the most, so let's get it right. In Wildwood, short-term rentals are straightforward. You get a mercantile license from the city clerk's office, register your property, and you're renting. That framework hasn't changed. Ocean City's rules have been anything but stable. In July of last year, voters rejected an ordinance that would have forced minimum 5-night stays in single-family home neighborhoods, eventually rising to a 31-night minimum. Then in December, the town council extended a moratorium on new short-term rental licenses in its R1 and mobile home residential zones through January of 2027. Residents gathered enough signatures to force another referendum, and rather than go to a special election, the council repealed the moratorium in February. A separate plan to cap short-term rental licenses at 10% of homes in residential neighborhoods was also dropped that same month. The net result? As of right now, short-term rental licensing is open in both towns, both the Wildwoods and Ocean City. There's no moratorium, no cap, no minimum stay currently in effect. But Ocean City still requires annual rental licenses around $246 a year, plus a local agent if you live more than 60 miles away. But that's 3 separate regulatory fights in about a year, and property rights advocates are already bracing for round 3. So if you're buying for the long term, that's a real risk to price in. Wildwood simply hasn't had that fight. Now, don't skip the carrying costs either. Both towns sit in coastal flood zones, so you're budgeting for flood insurance no matter which one you pick. So get a quote before you make an offer and not after. And remember, most times condos do include flood insurance costs. Now, Ocean City market leans heavily condo, and condo fees there can quietly eat into your cash flow every single month. Wildwood's rental stock is more single-family and duplex with a mix of condos, which means fewer HOA surprises, though older beach block homes can mean bigger maintenance line items. Model those numbers before you fall in love with a listing photo. And one more practical note. Financing an investment property usually means 20 to 25% down, regardless of which state you're buying in. Because Wildwood short-term rental income is trending up, some lenders are more willing to count projected rental income towards your debt-to-income ratio there. So shop lenders who specifically work with vacation rental financing. A generic residential mortgage broker often won't know how to structure this kind of deal. Now, taxes. I'll give this to Maryland straight up because the numbers don't lie. Cape County, New Jersey, where Wildwood sits, has an effective property tax rate around 1.55%. Worcester County in Maryland, where Ocean City sits, is lower. It's around 0.99%. New Jersey state income tax also climbs up to 10.75% at the top bracket and taxes capital gains as ordinary income. Maryland's top rate is lower, and the state actually cut its base rate down to 4% for 2026. And one more update here. Worcester County raised its short-term rental room tax rate from 5% to 6% as of January 1st, 2026. So factor that into your Ocean City cash flow projections also. If you're purely optimizing for the lowest tax drag, Maryland still wins that category outright. So who should buy where? Well, if you want a calmer, family-oriented rental market, lower property taxes, and a more predictable, if flatter, price trend, Ocean City, Maryland still makes sense. If you want exposure to a beach town in the middle of a documented growth spurt and renaissance, with rents up 18%, prices up over 50% year to year, and boardwalk foot traffic from Maury's Pier pulling in renters all summer long, Wildwood is where the momentum is. This isn't about which town is objectively nicer to visit. It's about which one gives your investment property the best shot at appreciation and rentability over the next 5 years or longer. So why am I still leaning towards Wildwood after all of this? Because taxes are a cost you manage. Appreciation and regulatory stability are things you either catch or gamble on. Wildwood is in the middle of a documented investor-driven price surge, rent growth nearing 18%, and a short-term rental framework that hasn't changed in years. Ocean City is a mature, flatter-priced market that just went through 3 separate regulatory fights over short-term rentals in about 12 months. And even though the moratorium and the rental cap plan both got shot down, the fact that they keep coming back up is worth factoring into your 5-year plan. When I'm looking at where a dollar today turns into the most equity and cash flow 5 years from now, I'd rather buy into the momentum with a calmer regulatory track record than buy into a fully priced market that's still fighting about its own rental rules. That's the trade-off. Higher taxes in Wildwood, but a market that's moving and a rule book that isn't up for vote every few months. So to recap, Ocean City gives you lower taxes, a flatter price trend, and for now, open short-term rental licensing after a rocky year of ordinances and referendums. Wildwood gives you a real estate market that's appreciating fast, rent growth near 18% year over year, and short-term rental rules that haven't changed in years. If you're chasing growth and stability in the rulebook, the Wildwoods currently have the edge. If you're chasing the lowest possible tax bill and don't mind some regulatory back and forth, Ocean City could make better sense. Either way, do your own due diligence, run your numbers, and talk to a local agent before you buy. If this breakdown saved you hours of research, do 2 things right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment and tell me which beach town you're watching for your next investment property. I read every comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.